Hey guys, I'm Nathan from Arms and Armor. Today I want to show you something really special. It is a replica of the fetters at the Metropolitan Museum. Stay tuned. So last summer, I had the opportunity to go to the Metropolitan Museum in New York and to the Higgins collection at the Worcester Art Museum, and had the chance to handle and document all three of the historical fetter schwerts, fencing longswords, originals in North America. I'm not aware of any others. And I'd previously made a mock-up of the Higgins fetter, but now we have made a mock-up of the Met fetter, and I want to introduce it to you and lay out how you can get one. So, this sword, the originals, are from Munich, from the late 16th century, probably between 1575, 1585, sometime around then, right in the time period that people were using these early fetter schwerts to fence with. It's pretty awesome. They are a matched pair. They both have the mark of probably Ulrich Melchior, who was a late 16th century, early 17th century Munich bladesmith, and they're covered with some really cool etching. These swords in the Met were probably acquired in the 18th century by Prince Saltykov of Russia, who we don't know. Maybe he was gifted the set of swords, maybe he bought them from someone in Germany on a trip. But at that point, when he bought them, he seems to have restored them. I think that he had the heavy etching on the crossguard pommel and the shield done at that point, and probably had the spiral wrapped grip put on at that point. You can tell that the originals have been taken apart, as there is a relatively modern peening nut on both of them that is clearly machined and looks 18th century to me, although it's possible that that peening block was actually later when the Met acquired the swords, that they may have taken it apart for restoration before putting it on display. I didn't look at its maintenance records, but it's certainly possible that that peening nut was replaced then. So these swords weigh right around 2 pounds, 14 ounces each. There's some variation in them. They are just about exactly a 1/4 inch thick right here. Right after the shield is the thickest part, and the point of balance is right at the end of the shield on these. Importantly, they were playing a different game than we play today when they were fencing in these Fechtschulen in Germany in the late 16th century. And this game, which you can see in Joachim Meyer's 1570 manuscript, and in a whole bunch of work that's been done by folks like Roger Norling documenting these fecht schools, and folks in the Meyer Free Fechter Guild have been working on, people were fighting with these completely unarmored. And there were mostly guildsmen in these cities that were trying to preserve the knightly arts of previous generations. Now, it seems like what you try to do is get your opponent to bleed from the scalp without hurting them in any other way. And these are a specialized tool for producing that. So based on my measurements of the two at the Met, one of them is 3/10 of a millimeter thick at the end, the last 1/2 inch, and the other one is 6/10 of a millimeter thick, which means that for all intents and purposes, these are sharp. Most of the significant tapering happens in the last third of the blade, and you actually, it seems like, we're not allowed to thrust in these fecht schools, right? So they were not optimized for thrusting against each other. There were prohibitions in the Holy Roman Empire against thrusting other Germans. You might have a cut at another German in self-defense, but if you thrust at them, my understanding is that this was essentially attempted murder. So in these fecht schools, it looks like you weren't particularly allowed to thrust, and these are not designed to be safe in the thrust. In fact, they are simply designed to be more safe than a really sharp sword, while still allowing you to create a bloom on the head. I think also that having such a rigid structure back here in the strong of the blade and such a light one out here in the point was very useful for stopping your cut so that you didn't kill your opponent when you were playing with them, when you were fencing with them. Right? So that mass distribution was an important technology for not killing your fellow guildsmen. Right? So, how did we do this piece? Well, we spec'd out all the dimensions. We measured the blade, every centimeter on both of them. On this piece, I've kind of, halved the difference between the two originals. This one is 0.5 millimeter thick at the end. You can see here, maybe, can you see? Yep. And we're gonna produce some of these. They're really awesome. I think that they're a great learning piece for people who practice HEMA, right? Do not fight a tournament with these unless you are fighting under historical factual rules. It's not safe. But this is what they were using, right? So if you want to learn how these swords were actually moving, how they were meant to move, this is the one for you to do that with. We may next year re-engineer these to be more safe and maintain the dynamics, but at first we're gonna offer 10 of them. Actually, this is one, so 9 of them. We'll take deposits of $150 and offer them sharp. Since the etching is almost certainly later, we are not including that on this first run. If there is demand for it, we will offer them etched, and we will, do it traditional style. So these guys are going to be $1,250 for this first batch of 9. We'll have a product page put up here in the next few weeks that you'll be able to put down a $150 deposit and reserve one. We have the parts and the blades, so we'd be looking at a few months turnaround time from the point that those orders go in until they're delivered. If you have any questions, please drop us an email. Oh yeah, the grip is 9.5 inches long, right? 9.5? No, 7.5. 19 centimeters. You can see that it is shorter than most modern fetters are. But both of them in the Met are exactly this long. All right, I look forward to hearing from a bunch of you, seeing what you think, and to getting this bad boy into production. I think it's a pretty cool experiment. Thank you.